All right, welcome back to a brand new episode of Friday Night Vintage, my ongoing series where I showcase just recent vintage card pickups, and I'm kind of moving more in this direction going forward. I think over the last several months, I've been focusing on sort of, I guess, modern or post 1980 graded cards. But anyway, I got five here. I'm gonna showcase, and I'm gonna start off with this 1976 Topps Thurman Munson, not to be confused with Thurman Merman. So when I got this in hand, I was a little bit suspicious because this lower left border has a little bit of a tilt compared to the right, but I don't see the similar tilt, or not as much up here. So, of course, cynical. I'm thinking, great. Did I buy a trimmed card? With all that's going on in the hobby these days. But I compared it to other Munsons in various grades on eBay, and actually it's a common thing to have that sort of a tilt to it. And I even, when I turned over to the back and try to establish reference points in straight line, it does look pretty square. So I think I'm good. And also, it's a very old flip, and and this may be 20 years ago. I'm not sure, but I guess why would you want to trim a 76 Munson 20 years ago? I don't know. Yeah, and also it does have some play in the slab as well. But again, I checked, and that's the norm, not the exception with this particular card. So I'm not sure if it's the tolerance of the card or the slab or a combination of both. But it does have some gaps. But I feel it's not a big card, and I don't think it's a card likely that someone would want to trim. But I don't know. I guess I'll just convince myself that it's okay. And next up is the first of two Pete Rose cards. Been kind of building up my Pete Rose PC here and there. And so here's one from 66 Topps. I guess centered reasonably well. You can't be too picky these days. And you are definitely going to be paying a premium for 50-50 centering. Case in point, I had a card in mind for this episode that I did not win. It was a 62 Topps Roberto Clemente in a PSA 7. And it had fantastic centering all around. I mean, you could find that on eBay if you look at the sold listings. And, I put in what I thought was a crazy snipe, but apparently somebody wanted the card way more than I did. And it sold for, well over $500, which is, I think, it's like $200 or more over the average PSA 7 price. But that's just the way things are now. I mean, the really good vintage is drying up. You just don't see a whole lot. And what you do see isn't all that great looking, and oftentimes tends to be overpriced. But there's a little tip I have for people out there looking at cards. I guess let's cover that in a minute. But next up is it's a card that I saw probably over 1,000 times over the years, and didn't really think much of it. And then I came across it one day, and suddenly I really wanted to have it. I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody else before. It happened to me one time before, last year actually, around this time, with this particular Joe DiMaggio. I thought that was a silly-looking card for many years, and one day something clicked, and I said, hey, I really want that card now. So that's kind of how things go, I guess. But this is a card that I had originally budgeted myself, something to get me around a PSA 6. But I ended up going with this 4, because I thought it was a really good value, and for a couple of reasons. One, it was priced lower than other 4s that had sold for on eBay. And number two, a big benefit, and this is one of my, buying tips, and maybe you already kind of figured this out yourself, but oftentimes if there's a card that I want, I will look at the seller, and then I will try to see if they have a brick and mortar. I'll search their eBay name, or they might actually have their store in their eBay profile. And at which point I'll go to their website, and oftentimes the very same card will be available there, but at a reduced cost, typically less whatever eBay charges for commissions, eBay, PayPal fees, whatever. In addition to that, the savings there, you also avoid paying sales tax. And so when I said good value, basically this was I think the auction listing was for $425, and it was $25 less on the website, this particular seller's website, and then on top of that I saved another $30 in sales tax. So now I did have to make some compromises. It was hard finding a nicely centered Jackie. This one has a tilt to it. a centered tilt nonetheless, but a tilt. You can see there's excess white here and up here, and that seems to be pretty common for this issue. Even the higher grades I was looking at, like the 5s and the 6s, they might not have had a tilt, but they were definitely off-centered, left, right, left, top, bottom, like 70-30 or worse. So I settled on this one, and I'm very happy with this. Just a great looking card. Jackie stuff is on fire. Oh my gosh. What was it? There was a card I could scratch off my list because the ship has sailed. Is the 48 Leaf, the one that's yellow. It's his rookie card, I think. Yeah, that's just bonkers. Like exponentially bonkers if you look at what they're selling for now, even in like low grades. You used to be able to get like a PSA 2 for like maybe $2,000 to $3,000. I think they're like closer to 10 now, which is just ludicrous. So that's the state of the market that we're in. Vintage cards are hot. And this next one is my other Pete Rose for this particular episode. This one from 1965. And, it's not the best centering, left, right, left, whatever. It's a little bit off, but I'm very satisfied with this purchase. The seller that had this had it set up as auction style, but with a very high starting bid. Essentially, the starting bid was the recent high sales price for this card in this grade on eBay. And of course, I reached out. Hey, do you have a brick and mortar store? If it wasn't obvious from his eBay profile, I'll ask outright. Do you have a store? In other words, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Can we work out a deal? Right? You got to be creative, so eBay doesn't. I don't know how well they police the interaction, but anyway, he says no, I don't. I don't have a store or whatever. Okay, fine. So I let the auction run its course. No bidders. I might have even been the only watcher on it. I don't know. And then he relisted it for the same money. And just before the auction ended, I said, hey, are you open to taking any offers on this particular card? And he said yes. And that's another tip you could take advantage of. If there's a card that you like with a high buy it now, but no best offer option enabled, or even if it's a card that's got a high starting auction price listing and it just kind of sits, reach out to the seller and just see if they're open to offers. And oftentimes they will be. Either they'll send you an offer sheet, or they'll ask you, what do you want to give for it? And you can just kind of negotiate that way. And so in this case, what I did was I went back on eBay's sales history and I found 8 total PSA 865 roses that had sold back, I think as far back as late August. And one had an OC qualifier, so I just threw that one out. And I took the average of them. Some looked better than others. Some had better centering, some had worse. But overall, they all had a reasonable spread variance. And I emailed the seller. I said, look, here's what I came up with for an average price for the last 8 sales. I will offer you this, which was like, I think 5% above what the average was because I really wanted this card. And he accepted it, which was great. So I got it for about a little over 10% lower than what he was originally asking. But unfortunately, I did have to pay sales tax on that one. So that just sucks. That's why eBay bucks don't really excite me anymore because like 5% eBay bucks doesn't even cover sales tax. So when I see those promotions, I'm like, it's not really. It seems like it doesn't make a big deal. And so what I try to do again is a lot of these cards I'm looking for. I'd say about half the time the person selling it has a store, a brick and mortar or otherwise, and that was the case with this last one, which is the big one of the group. This 41 play ball, Joe DiMaggio. And you want to talk about slim pickings. The inventory on this card is always very low on eBay. And what is there tends to be crap. Or if it looks halfway decent or better, it's overpriced. I was fortunate enough to snag this on the quick because I just happened to be searching eBay one Saturday morning, and this was a fresh listing. So I did my routine of seeing if the seller had a store. He did. I emailed the store address. I said, hey, this card on eBay, I'm interested. Can we work out a deal? And I got it for, I think almost $400 less than what the eBay auction listing price was. And then again, I saved on the sales tax. So that was a big savings there overall. Now, some compromises. It looks centered up on first glance, but this one also has a tilt to it. But you got to be willing to settle to a certain degree. I could wait till the cows come home to find something that's 50-50 centering without a tilt. But you know what? You're going to pay through the nose for that if and when it even shows up. So I thought I did pretty well with this 3.5. Yeah, you just don't see this card come up very often in a semi-decent grade. So I was certainly happy to add that one. And that will do it for Friday Night Vintage. I will link the playlist to all previous episodes for those that are new to my channel. If you want to check those out, feel free to do so. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you all soon.